Mash greens are these teeny little florets, super easy to grow, especially in cold weather. If you want to know how to grow mash yourself, even if there's snow outside, then keep watching. Hey, Nadia here, and today you're going to learn all about growing mash greens or mash lettuce or just mash. It's actually just mash, but people usually write lettuce or greens at the end of it because sometimes if you do a Google search, like I know when I was looking up mash, just thinking about what I wanted to do for this video, I put in mash and I would get like paper mache. So they're spelt very similarly. I think just the accent is different. But yeah, that's why people use lettuce or greens at the end of it. Actually, in some parts of the world, it's also known as corn salad or lamb's lettuce. Those are two other terms for it. I've never seen those personally, but I do know that people use those terms as well. But let's talk about this very cool leafy green. It is one of the most cold hardy greens or cold hardy vegetables that I have ever seen. So if you live in a cold climate or you like the idea of a winter garden and you want ideas on what you can grow in fall, winter, or early spring, then keep watching because this video is going to tell you exactly how you can do it. It's a bit of a different strategy from growing something like tomatoes or peppers. So if you're just getting into gardening or if you're a beginner gardener, then you may not want to start here unless you of course love the idea of a winter garden or you love the idea of being more sustainable and growing more of your own food year round, then it's great. It's a great option to go. But if you're just getting your feet wet and you just want to start with the basics, this probably isn't the one to start with. So just want to give you that heads up before we keep going. It's not necessarily more complicated, it's just different from what some of the other advice that you're going to get. So who can grow this green? Where does it grow? Well, it is ideally suited for people with cold climates. So it's best to grow when the temperature is cold out, so fall, winter, or early spring. Some farmers like Elliot Coleman, who if you don't know who he is a revolutionary farmer. I love his work. I've followed him for years. He really, he was a big push on organic growing like way back in the day. And he's still is, but he also talks a lot about 4-season growing, so growing throughout the winter. And mash is actually, I learned this from him. So he talked about growing mash even under snow, which is totally possible, in fact. So even after most of the other plants in my garden have died, like my summer plants have died, mash is still growing strong in my garden, even under a layer of snow. So I have a clip of pulling a mash floret actually out of my garden underneath the snow. Now, I don't recommend that's actually how you grow mash. I think you should cover it if you're planning on growing and it's gonna snow around you. I just left it uncovered so that I could show you exactly how cold hardy this green is. It is still luminous green. It hasn't sacrificed any of its texture or anything like that, even under a layer of snow. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, we had an ice storm where the entire garden was covered with a thick layer of ice, and there was no snow, so it's not like it was insulating it. Full-on ice storm, and then it thawed, and then it snowed, and that's when you're seeing that I picked this mash. So it is super duper cold hardy green. And if you know your growing zone and you want to know if it should grow if it will grow where you live, generally it can grow down to zone 5 or 4 or potentially even 3 with enough cover. So if you know about growing zones, that's where it would survive to. There's a link down below if you want to know what your growing zone is as well. All right, so when do you plant mash? If you want to be eating it in the winter, so if you want to eat it in December, January, February, and even under snow, you actually don't want to be planting it at that time. You want to plant it well before, of course, like anything you want to eat, you want to plant it well before the time you actually want to eat it. But also, things don't grow sometimes at all or not nearly as fast when it's cold and when the nights start to get longer. So you need enough daylight. So most people, and what I strongly suggest, is that if you want a winter garden and you want to grow mash to eat in the winter, that you plant it in the summer or the early fall. And you'd have to know your own planting date by looking up the specifics of your growing zone and when your last frost date is. So I talked in my last video, or maybe a few videos ago, I don't know, about creating a solid plan in the winter. And in that plan, whether you're doing it on paper or whether you're doing it in an online garden planning app, that will give you the actual dates that you should be planting. So you can look, I have three different kinds of seeds here that I use to grow mash, or I guess they're all called corn salad. I don't call it corn salad, I call it mash. It will tell you exactly how long in advance you want to be growing it. So anywhere from 25 days to 50 days is what they're giving me. If you're doing the plan on your own on paper, then just look at the seed packet and it will tell you. Otherwise, the garden planner will give you a date for your specific location. How long does it take to grow? After you've planted it, it can take anywhere from a month to maybe 2 months at the very most, probably more so like a month to a month and a half until it's ready to eat. Now you can eat it at all different sizes. So this is a really young one. This would have been less than a month for sure to grow to this size. And then when can you harvest it? So let's say you plant it on September 1st, and this is just an example. You'd use whatever date makes sense for your own climate. So either look at the seed packet and say, okay, when is my frost date in the fall? And then count back the number of days, and then that would be your planting date. And you'd have to figure that out, knowing your frost date and then knowing the number of days on the seed packet. Or of course you can use the garden planner. It will just give you a personalized date. But you'd get that date, and we'll use September 1st as an example. And let's say it took 45 days. So mid-October, you would be eating. You can pull the plant out mid-October, or you can leave it in the garden and eat it in December, January, February, March. The cool thing about winter growing is that you can just let it sit in your garden all winter long and it will stay fresh. It's kind of like a outdoor refrigerator that doesn't require any electricity. It's pretty cool how powerful nature is when you actually grow in harmony and you grow what nature wants to be growing at that time of year. You can even leave it until the spring when the days start to get longer again, and that same mash plant will actually start growing bigger and bigger. So it won't grow much in the winter. So even though it's sitting in your garden for months, it doesn't actually grow very much. You have to wait until the spring and the days start getting longer again oftentimes to see new growth. But if you do, and you can keep the plant alive in the winter, then it will start growing again in the spring. So you'd have a really early spring green that way too. Okay, so have I sold you on the idea of mash and how awesome it is as a winter green? If so, and you want to know what to do with it, because you may have never heard of it, you may have never grown it or eaten it before, if you want to know what you can do with it, I do have another recipe. I don't know if I'm going to post it before or after this video, but a recipe that you can make. It's a winter harvest bowl, so it uses all sorts of other ingredients that are fresh in the winter. So I'll have a link to that above my head or down below this video if you want to check that out as well. If you like this video and you want more planting guides, or you want a personalized gardening schedule of what you should be planting when, all perfectly suited to your own individual climate, then try out the garden planner. I'll have a link to it below this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next one.